Yeah, sure.
Hello, and thank you, Kate, for agreeing to do Ask the Customer and tell me all about what you do.
I'm always interested to hear what comes out of my gob when people ask me that. So I've written it down this time so I can be a tiny bit coherent and precise rather than rambling on for 5 hours. So I'm a facilitator, an author, a mentor, speaker, and my specialist is in a positive, embodied, and inclusive menopause process. And sort of alongside that, I'm a podcaster. So I have a podcast, but that really is to support my business, to support the message. I'm also an artist. So that's just kind of on my side. Well, that has entirely a separate.
It totally
Um,
shows because you get quite involved with the design of your site, and I see little things pop up like, oh, I like that. So yeah,
we'll talk more about that later.
yeah,
Thank you. And I'm a yoga nidra guide. Yeah, so those are kind of the things that I engage. That's the short answer.
it's brilliant. And it was some years ago that I got an email from you to say, "Can you help me with your web? Can you help me with my website?" That's right. And I think I took on your website and it was already built. And I think it was a couple of years ago, I revamped it with loads of brilliant input from you. How did that go for you? Was that, I think you may have built your website to start with, I think, perhaps. Or,
Yeah, well, back in, I'm not a digital native. I'm 58. So I remember I had somebody gave me their beige, big box of a computer, with a big
when they
monitor,
were all
big
beige.
box, and
Yeah,
that was in, I think, the late 90s,
yeah.
dial up.
Yes. Oh, yes,
Ringing,
I remember the
ringing.
noise.
Okay. So I was, when I kind of, was it before or after? I'm trying to remember when I first made a website. I think it was probably in the late 90s.
Yeah, same here. It was
Uh,
1998 for me. I started HTML in Notepad.
I was drag and drop.
Oh, lovely. That might
But,
be
but
front
that was
page.
but that was because I could feel the knowledge gap between
Mhm.
how foreign digital stuff was to me and what needed to happen and how I
Mhm.
needed to do
Mhm.
things. And I
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely refused to be left behind. So I was like, I'm
brilliant.
not an instruction follower.
Yeah, me
I
too.
never train in anything. I'm like, I'm gonna bloody figure this.
It's
Like
exactly
tried
like
and error,
that.
like complete idiot.
Yes,
So
yeah.
I made websites and I kept on doing it and I used whatever platform. I mean, I used some platforms that are now redundant
Yeah,
and
me too.
weren't that good.
Yeah.
But I just kept on wanting to communicate to my audience, potential audience, better and more effectively.
Mm.
So yes, you did take the website over. And I think it was recognizing that that I should focus my attention on what I do well,
Yeah.
not pretend to be a tech person anymore, because somebody else can do that better, to delegate
Yeah.
that. And I
Yeah.
wanted somebody who was an actual human,
Hmm.
who I could speak to, who wouldn't speak back to me in HTML.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
try.
you do very well.
I do try.
Yeah. So that's how that came about. And it was actually at a time when I was on many levels preparing to be more visible,
Hmm. I
because
think
my
you were
first book
writing your
was
book
going
at
to
that time,
come
weren't
out.
you?
Yeah, my first book was going
Yeah.
to come out, and I really wanted my website to be solid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. From a design point of view and from a user interface point of view, and especially be really mobile friendly, because I guess I mean, it's drummed into all us website designers the last 10 or 12 years that most people are using websites on mobiles now. There are unusually exceptions to that. It depends on the type of website. So if it's people looking in an office, they tend to use a website on a desktop or laptop. But your website especially would be used on a mobile and tablets.
Yeah.
Me being
So can you
48.
give us the statistics, please, about
Oh, yes.
because
Off the top of my
like more
head,
or less, because
I
I
reckon.
only ever look at it on a desktop.
Do you
And
know
then
what? I can
like,
actually find out because I've
oh
got the
my God,
statistics up because I thought I better have a look before we
that's the
do.
truth.
Where is it? It's in Google Search Console pages.
Oh my
Devices.
God,
Oh wow, I
didn't
feel really
expect
efficient
that.
now. So I don't know what percentage it is, you can work it out. So mobile hits in the last
I'd
month
rather talk
is
about childhood wounds than look at this.
should I give the actual figures? Because August isn't
Come on,
last three
hit me.
months. I would say so it says device. So out of it doesn't give me the whole thing, but so desktop 592 clicks, that's in search, and that's 875 mobile. But some of those will be you and me on the website. Tablet is
They're probably on
31.
me.
It's not hitting refresh all the time. It's not. But that's in the last 3 months. I guess perhaps in summer you're probably more quiet, I would have thought, because people are going on a holiday. I'm assuming. But
Well,
percentage-wise, I would say people tend to be on mobiles 80%, 70 to 80% more than every other device. And it totally depends on each type of industry and niche. And I actually, a lot of older people, if you're dealing with people that are kind of our age and older, excuse me, we tend to use tablets because I find a phone is too small for everything. I can't even see what's on it. So I need a tablet so I can see stuff or a big screen. So yeah, so it's important to make sure a website works on a mobile. And when I first started making websites mobile, I remember thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? I was in my mid-30s and where it's drummed into us that the older you get, the harder it is to learn new stuff. It's bunkum. It's absolute. And you have to, it's attitude. If you decide you're going to learn something, you will learn something. I've learned Mandarin and I've learned other things in the last 10 years, not as quickly as I would in my 20s.
come on, show us, get them
Doing
out.
it.
Come
And my
on.
muscles have been
Oh,
getting
look at that.
strong, working out. I look like Popeye. If I do that, it's more exaggerated. I'm still a weed. I still couldn't open a jar of honey yesterday without bashing it on the floor. But, but you can always learn new stuff. So making stuff mobile, it was like, how do you make it? And when you learn new stuff, it's working out a process of how you do it. So to make stuff mobile, I worked out you stack stuff and then make it bigger. So you make the small buttons more tappy or more clicky. Buttony buttons, I call it. You need to make your buttons buttony. So I made your buttons buttony on your new website. So we took your website, your existing website, and I think I redesigned it, and then you came in and did your thing. And then it's evolved ever since, hasn't it? Quite a lot, I think. We've added new bits and pieces.
Yeah, well, it's evolved as my business has evolved.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
because
mean,
your book came out.
sorry.
Because your book came out around about that time, I think.
Yeah, it was February 22, Second Spring came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I've found that the process of writing website copy and choosing imagery and choosing design to be enormously helpful in defining what I do. This is kind of the first place
Yes.
where I go, where I have to really sort out, well, what is it exactly that I do? And how do people feel? And what do they need to know about this? And
Yeah.
what's really important? And that's kind of the first place, almost before, because I'm a writer, so I think through writing, that before I speak to people, I'd probably be writing on the website. So I am a perennial fiddler. And
It's funny, you do get two kinds of customers, fiddlers like you, and people that go, I'm not going to touch it, I'm not breaking.
well, I should be less. I should be less of a fiddler.
Doing.
I spend too much time fiddling when I should be doing actual money earning work.
I think that's how I learned to build websites, by breaking them. I shouldn't say that, but yeah, first, yeah, everyone who makes anything learns by, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Or what did I do? How did I fix it? Okay, don't do that again.
Yeah. So it has evolved. a lot. So I have, since then, I have developed 2 new online courses. So that one of which is on my site. One is housed elsewhere on a site that I manage. And so that, you know, that takes up a lot of space. And I have another book coming out in September. So I mean, I think that in as much as the website copy helps me define my offering, I think that the website also kind of helps to define my how can I say that I'm not a twat.
It helps to define your vision.
I am a trustworthy,
identity
person.
Yeah, and it's great. What you say about design, a lot of customers I've had a couple of people come to me without any kind of design and no logo, and they expect a website to be created without any kind of branding. And branding is this horrible, almost clinical, Wolf of Wall Street branding term, marketing term, but it's really important to have an idea of colors and fonts. And I love the pink. I've used this background to match your website.
Hang on.
Oh, have you got the book? Hey, brilliant.
It matches my new book. Look at that.
I don't know why I'm pointing, but yay! I'll put a link in everywhere this video goes. I will put a link to all the things. I'm a bit magician. Yeah. So it's important to have a vision and what colours you like and what they say about you, but also any kind of branding needs to be a bit about you, but who are you targeting and how are you going to help them? And it's kind of a bit of both, of about you and about them. And it's a weird place to sort of take yourself out of your own brain and put your brain into someone else's, and what don't they know and how can you help them without them knowing? So then you start to think about what the kinds of things they're searching for on the web, that is the kinds of things that, you know, will connect you with them. There's a whole law of attraction idea that what you search is what you're looking for is finding you. So you have to kind of think about that with your website. That sounds a bit woo, but it's kind of it's the best place to start. But lots of people don't even realize that. They don't even start with a vision, you know, any pictures. I don't mind creating that for them and creating the branding for them. I love doing that, actually. But you had that all sorted to start with, so that was easy for me.
I have a lot of opinions about design.
Yeah.
One thing I'd love to chat with you about is the sort of design norms for websites. So for well-being type people, there is a real design norm about you have a banner at the top with a big picture of the person looking glam.
Yes, and relaxed in nature. Which is quite nice sometimes if they're like in a field with daisies and things. That's quite
nice. Field of daisies, and then you have welcome to my site. I am woo 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 woo. And then at the bottom you have a book now button, and I really hate that. I really, really hate it, because I'll tell you why. Because it centers the appearance of the therapist, with like a screen for you to project on. Basically, what it's saying is, the message is, you want to look like me.
Yes,
my life. It's
very superficial.
Well, it's inviting projection, you know.
Yeah.
And the implication is, well, if you sign up for my whatevers, then you can have this life. You know, you can be all calm and sit in a field of daisies, which will give you a scratchy ass, because I've tried it. Okay, like real life here.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want that. I wanted something that was gave a really clean offer. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. These are the different things that I do, and here is more information. So I feel really it's really important for me to give as much information for free as I possibly can.
Yes.
So I have a lot. I have like an embarrassing.
I love your pictures because they're you, and there's no sort of I'm glamorous. It's just and I'm trying to with my branding be more people-y, be more me on my website, even though I feel horribly insecure about. I don't wear makeup, or I haven't worn makeup for over 10 years. I refuse to. Lots of people saying, if you make videos, you got to wear makeup. Well, screw you. I'm not going to. And if people see a woman who's 48 years old building websites for 26 years, who's got good reputation, that they shouldn't worry about that. They go, I can see she's a human, and she's not glamorous. She's just interested in helping us, and that's the same
Yeah.
for you. You're lovely and peoply, and the colours are bright and cheery, and there's you in your garden, and I'm like, I can imagine just chatting to you in a garden and saying, oh, I've really had this problem, and I don't know what to do about it, and you might have a suggestion or guide people through the trauma of. For me, it was a bit traumatic at times with the menopause.
Mm,
So yeah, so that's how you want your website to show how you help. But yeah,
yeah.
an awful lot of therapist websites. I don't mind that formula, but as long as it isn't too polished. And I think you've got such a perfect balance of being natural and it's about being authentic. It's that word, isn't it? Being genuine and authentic and just this is what you get. You get a person that's good with
Yeah.
people, I think.
Mm, yeah. I think at the same time, you know, the advantage of using there's probably language for it, and I can't. What is it called when you know different industries have a different website style? What is that called?
Themes or niches or designs.
Yeah, it's a very specific design look.
Formula. Yeah,
For a
formulaic.
formula, a design
Yeah,
formula,
yeah.
whether you're a bookshop or a therapist, or you sell widgets um or
You're a tech
siblings or
person,
yeah,
or you sell Wellington boots.
yeah.
It's
It's a
always
very
my
totally
default. I haven't got a weird fetish for Wellington boots. It's always my example because I don't know anyone who does Wellington boots. And I think they're funny little things. Anyway, but yeah, there's always with design, it's with art you can be totally free and just be all original and don't give a stuff because no one has to like it because you're doing it for you and someone at some point is going to like it. But with design you have to have the balance of both. It has to make sense and it be intuitive, but whilst not being exactly the same as everybody else's. Like solicitor websites are really hard to design because they just you want them to look friendly without looking like everybody else's. I did one of those recently, actually. Lovely, lovely lady. She's really lovely. You don't think of solicitors as being friendly, nice people, but she actually is. She's like you and me, you know. And so, yeah, you want to get away from being too nichey, but you also want to keep the design intuitive. And it's that form, design and function balance that I struggled with. I think because I started as an artist, I was arty from a few months old. My mum and dad reckon I was drawing at months old. I think they're exaggerating, but they said, you never scribbled. And I'm sure I just went, ah. I know I scribbled all over the walls because they won't let me forget about that. And I didn't like
mixed message
wallpaper.
there.
I occasionally tried to take the wallpaper off the walls because I didn't like paisley. I mean, it was the 1970s, purple paisley on the wallpaper. Seriously. So, but I always like building things in Lego and I've got a weird shadowy thing happen there. Anyway, I liked systemifying things. And when I went to art college, I don't think they realized how I had that kind of interest in hieroglyphics and alphabets and things and explaining stuff. They would like, oh, graphic design's not for you. And it was challenging. I did find it very difficult, but got my head around it eventually. And now 20, 30 years later, I think I'm making it a success. I've won a few awards for Body Spiral, so I'm doing all right. But I think it goes to show you can do anything if you put your mind to it, and other people around you don't always know what's in you and what you have to had to achieve. And perhaps is that perhaps true of you when you started out? Do people realize just how much you had to offer? Do you think? That's quite a difficult question to ask, isn't it?
Don't ask them.
Because
No
you
clue.
produce so much wonderful stuff that I bet people are like, wow, you do all of that. Because I was really impressed.
I am someone who, well, I think my capacity to do many different things is down to privilege. Actually, it's down to the privilege of having a white skin and not being under threat all the time. I
Yeah.
have enough resources so that I not all of my income is dependent on my well-being work.
Mm-hmm.
I have a partner, you know, who I live
Yeah.
with. We
Yeah.
share a house, we share finances. That's another privilege.
Mm.
So that enables me
To
to
explore those
do
things.
different things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel that having two books published is an enormous privilege, and a lot of it is to do, you know, there's a reason that there are more books published by white skinned people than brown skinned
Mm.
people
Mm.
and
Absolutely.
middle
Yeah.
class people than working class people. It's
Mm.
because it takes a lot of time and energy to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So if I have that privilege, and I do, then I think it's beholden to me to use it well and to
Yeah.
shove all the love and wisdom and inspiration that I have
Yeah.
into those books and
Yeah.
into this website and
Yeah.
into the stuff that I write,
Public domain. Yeah.
yeah, in the public domain, it's really important to do that.
We talk about privilege, but as women, sometimes we're overlooked in the menopause. I mean, when my mum went through the menopause, I had to ask her what the menopause was back in 1990 something. I actually didn't, we weren't taught about what it was at school. I think young women now, I hope they know about what the menopause is, because there's women like us going on about it now.
Mm.
But you've made it much more socially acceptable to talk about, which is just so much easier. And it's one of the things I can talk to most women about. I'm happy to talk to younger women about it because they've got all of that to come. And I hope it's easier for them than it was for us, because it was harder for my parents, my grandparents, my grannies. But I don't want to talk about menopause too much, but I want to say my granny never thought that she ever suffered from anything menopause related, but it turned out she suffered with insomnia and migraines, which I had, as well as some of the other symptoms. And she was long past when my mum said, do you know what? I think those were her menopause symptoms, because in those days they used to hand out sleeping tablets like, it's like sweeties. And my biggest thing was the insomnia for months. And it probably took about a year to get the HRT right and I sort of took off again about a year ago, and I'm back to me again, which is wonderful. But there's so much out there now about what menopause symptoms actually are, that you're sort of helping people figure that out. And I think that's amazing. And that only in the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, it feels like people have been able to talk about it openly without feeling, oh no, we can't talk about it because it's menopause. I find people are really embarrassed about it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of it is to do with education and understanding that the difference between perimenopause and menopause. So perimenopause is the time before your periods stop, and it's a really sensitive time. So people will have a lot of different symptoms, and your hormones are sensitive, but there's also a whole load of life stress going on as well. So you're likely to either be wanting children or not wanting children, or having small children. I mean, because we're having kids later now. So there's that whole issue of biological fertility, which adds loads of stress. You're likely to be running a business, or making websites, or
well, you're running a business and
or having a side hustle, having a full-time job and having and running a side hustle as well, and having caring responsibilities. And there's, I think that the way that stress interacts, stress is the most dominant influencer on our estrogen and progesterone hormones. So there is a lot, you will have a lot of symptoms, and if you're neurodiverse, you will become so knackered, you will not be able to mask anymore. So the world becomes even more, you will become even more sensitive as well. So there's a lot going on in that point, and I don't think you could slide a piece of paper between what you would call perimenopause, hormonal caused issues, and life stress. And if you have ADHD, or I was diagnosed with ADHD 2 years ago now. Would have helped if they'd known about. They didn't know about this in the mid 1970s, early 80s, but it would have helped to know about that earlier on. And I'm in a group on social media for people with ADHD and going through menopause. And it's clear that these two things have a party with each other and make life interesting, sometimes very difficult. But I think I just gave up masking. I thought, I'm just going to be me. I think for me, the last 10 or 20 years, I just shared stuff that doesn't serve me. And it's been liberating and healthy, I think. Yeah, that is the purpose of menopause. It's so that we can let go of our conditioning.
Yes.
And that does mean that if you're neurodiverse, that masking becomes impossible. And ultimately, for the world, I think that's a good thing.
Because then you educate people. We've done too much people pleasing and masking and pretending to be this or pretending to be that, and I think it was a few years ago when I said, I can't, there was a networking event I really like doing, but I had to get up crazy early in the morning to do it. And it was upsetting my sleep pattern. And I said to them, look, I really love doing this, but I can't anymore. I'm just going to do the lunchtime ones on Zoom. And they're like, that's okay, but we're going to miss you. And I know you're going to miss me, but this is my boundary. This is what I'm going to do. And that you learn to just stop doing everything for everyone and start looking after yourself, because as I've learned, your mental and physical health is the foundation upon which everything in your life is built on. So if you're not physically or mentally well, you can't build your websites or do whatever work you do, or look after your kids, or, you know, have a good time and have an actual life. I think we're suddenly realizing that happiness and good health are just basic requirements for life. They're like the water and food that your body needs. Mentally, we need to be happy and healthy. It's not a luxury to be happy. And I think that's coming to the fore, I think. I don't know whether I'm rambling there, but, and going off the subject of websites as well a bit. But I think it's good for people to watch this and listen to this, because even if you're a man who knows women that are going through this, it might help, you know, might help them. And also there must be, this is a bit well off subject, I'm just going to mention it, but there must be trans men going through the menopause, and they must be, not every trans person can take hormones, I've learned. So they must be going through something probably in silence because they don't feel entitled to talk about it. And I just want to say that just now, I'm just open to listening to those people, because we need to embrace everyone who's going through all kinds of stuff, because that's what makes humans human. That's a bit off subject.
Thank you for bringing trans men into this.
Good.
Well, I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, it's easy for people to give lip service to inclusion. It's much harder to actually include a diverse community in your offerings, speaking as a well-being type person, because if you invite people from a more diverse community in, you have to be prepared to stand up for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stand up against the prejudice from other people. So there's a whole communication process that doesn't relate to websites.
Yes.
It's a communication process through the website that indicates who your services are for. You know, if you're inviting the wider community, non-binary people, you know, also all kinds of people into your spaces, then you need to explain to them how you're going to make it safe for them.
Yeah.
Rather than just have it so that they know it's not just lip service. But also you need to explain to the cis white, you know, for me it would be cis white women, for women, that this is an inclusive place, and hate speech is not acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what that hate speech might be, even, you know. And that all has to be put in the website in a way that's accessible, that's clear, that's not full of jargon. In fact, somebody, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Tad Hargreaves of Marketing for Hippies, or it might not have been. Anyway, somebody said, some clever person said, the process of designing a website is to put off 90% of the people who go there.
Yes.
Right? But I have full permission to be as weird and as odd.
When I first started out 2010, I thought, like, everyone is my customer, and then I realized I just want to work with these people, the big businesses that didn't treat me very well, and working with smaller businesses that are growing, and then realizing that the three jewelers whose websites I do, they're all three of them are so individual and different. And I think maybe 3 or 4 photographers I've worked with, all 3 or 4 of these people are so different in the kinds of things they offer and do. And the challenges is they personally have, like with their parents or kids or something they're going through. They might be going through the menopause, they might be going through something else, some sort of treatment. When you work with people, and as closely as I do with people, you have to have so much empathy. And this leads me to something on LinkedIn. Somebody brought this up. Someone said something about empathy. And then I learned later there's such a thing as cognitive empathy and emotional empathy, and then they're slightly different things. So cognitive empathy is good when you're teaching someone, because you intellectually understand what they might be struggling with or what they don't know. And in emotional empathy is when someone stubs their toe and you go, oh, you feel it for them. But this guy I hadn't realized that then, but he was talking about, oh, you just understand the brief. And I said, no, I really empathize with my customers. No, it's just, you just understand what they've told you to do. I'm like, no, I get in their head, and I kind of, what are they struggling with, and how can I communicate for them what they need to do? And I think understanding people is what our culture and civilization lacks quite a lot at the moment. We're not promoting that enough. And I think when you care about what you do, you care about the people that you work with. And I think that's important. But yeah, I feel awkward talking about that in a funny sort of way, because I feel like I'm not really good at bigging myself up, but I realise I do really care about people. And I used to think of that. I used to think that was a weakness. And it was a few years ago, and I went, do you know what? That's a strength. I'm emotionally invested in people that are struggling with stuff. I'm emotionally invested in people I don't even know, because I just got a sense of justice. And actually, that's a strength, not something that anyone has the right to put me down for. And I think you're the same. And I think, but as a therapist, you've got to really learn to be emotionally separated, I think, to a certain extent. I mean, I get really emotionally involved sometimes. I have to go, it's not my problem. If they're dealing with something that's not related.
It's an interesting dance, because I think my job is to, here comes the long description of what I do.
Yeah, go for it.
My job is to spot the undercurrents, often is to name the undercurrents of what's happening, the sort of the secondary process, the unconscious process,
right,
happening underneath people. So that requires me to be fully present, like that means mentally, but also in terms of feeling into my body, because often what's happening gets communicated into my system, and to stay curious. But it's a bit like being a vessel. It has to come through me, and I have to let that go.
Yeah, yeah.
What really helps is for me to name what is happening. So blah, 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 blah. I wonder if there might be some sadness underneath that anger, for example, because I notice how my heart is heavy. So it's about naming the undercurrent, and that's the underneath bit, but also because spotting and naming the bigger arcs. So I work with the seasons, with the natural world as a way of inhabiting our lives. So I might also be saying, well, this is typical for an autumnal phase when you are letting go and assessing who you are, and all that stuff you've described about so beautifully about perimenopause. And that's normal. It's normal to feel confused and lost. And then go, oh. So I hold both. And yes, I'm empathetic, but I'm, as somebody who is a therapist type person, I have to step out of their shoes as well.
Yeah, and you have to be, I guess, perspective and to see what's going on, because you can be so in it that you can't see it for how it really is.
And to do that, I need a shed load of help. So I have, I need a lot. And that's not just personally. For anybody to work at any depth with authenticity, we need so much support. We need one-to-one support, probably paid support, I think is really helpful. Objectivity. Peer support, one-to-one. I have two of those. I have supervision groups where I meet with 3 or more people to get together to talk about our work. And it's because we can't do that. It's complicated, and we can't we can't separate this out this stuff alone. We need objectivity. So I am held by lots of people, and I've just started in September offering professional supervision groups as well, just for this process, just to sit with our colleagues who have objectivity, who have a different worldview, where we can really hear our dilemmas and bring all of ourselves to our work.
That's brilliant. And I think website designers, people don't realize that we have that. I know so many other website designers that I talk to about what I'm going through, and they'll do the same for me. Even there's a couple that are much older than me, much more experienced. I feel very flattered to say, oh, I just had this blooming person and be like this, or this is. We all need people that are on our sort of, people get kind of like, oh, that's my competitor. I can't be open to that, but it's good to have friendly competitors for your mental health. They're not even competitors, they're just colleagues.
Should we talk about competition? How do you feel about competition? Because a lot of people are really engaged with being frightened of their competitors, making themselves smaller than their competitors, rivalry. There's a lot of issues where content gets stolen as well. I mean,
but Google will, if you copy someone's content off their website and put it on yours, Google will know that you are second to have that content, and you're just going down the search engines. So yeah. But my competitors, I really like them, and some of them don't want anything to do with me. I'm going to mention my friendly ones. There's Indigo Ross, who are near me, and I have good conversations with them when I meet them at networking events, and they're really nice people. They come up to say, how you doing? And I the same for them. But there are others which I won't mention that are a bit kind of, I don't know, they're funny with me. And I'm like, I'd like to be your friend. We haven't got the same customers, although sometimes we've overlapped, and sometimes I've taken customers from them and sometimes vice versa, because it happens and it's natural. Because a customer is a person with a bunch of needs that aren't always the same. They might want to change the way their business is functioning, or they might want to change the kinds of people they're aiming at. And they might say, well, Abbie's not great for that, but I actually want someone who's more of a marketing promotional person, rather than someone who just looks after the website, makes sure it's safe and has information on SEO and stuff, because I do the SEO, search engine optimization, but they might want someone who's more of an agency in marketing to go to them. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And then I've pinched customers off them that don't want to pay so much and just want someone to look after the website and do the marketing that I do that's within SEO. And yeah, I have no problem with my competitors at all. I use the word competitors, but I don't feel like I'm competing with them. I feel like we all have different niches, and I predominantly build in WordPress now. I used to predominantly build in Drupal, but Drupal became ridiculously complicated and difficult to use. And like I mentioned, I started out building websites in Notepad. So I was there at the beginning. There's that meme of from Lord of the Rings where I can't remember the elf that goes, I was there 3,000 years ago. I feel like him. So I went to WordPress for a reason. I know people might say, oh, but you're just pressing buttons. And yeah, well, when you use a computer, you are. I had one bloke try to put me down and say that, oh, you're just pressing buttons. I'm like, yeah, that's how I do my work. I press buttons. I drag things about a bit sometimes. I do a lot of thinking, but there is some misogyny that I think I've come across very mildly, but I know as many female website designers as male, and all the ones that are good, there's male ones that are good, there's female ones that are good. We specialize in different things. I think of them all as being on my side and in my team. And the couple of companies that have been a bit funny towards me, I don't know why they are. I'd be happy for them to say, can you help us out with something? Or for me to go to them, can you help me out with something? I would love to be that person that works with those people, rather than this kind of warlike, we are the Knights of Ni kind of mentality about things. I don't like that. Yeah, it's not early on. I think I tried to be like that because I thought I had to be like that. And I realized it was so unnatural to me that I thought it's one of the things that during the menopause I just shed, because I thought I'm not going to be this competitive dog eat dog, wolf of Wall Street mentality about it all. It's just it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel really strongly that we serve different communities. Exactly as you said, that I serve a particular community.
Yeah.
There are, since post Davina, so 2 years ago, if people who don't know, Davina McCall, the telly presenter, made a menopause, and since then it's been very in the news and
yeah.
And naturally there are, I Instagram and Facebook, Meta love to advertise to me menopause coaching courses.
Oh no,
I get to be a menstrual coach.
I get things to design logos and how to do SEO, and I'm like,
so there's a lot, there is in theory a lot more competition. There are a lot of people there are some people in my field, and there are many more coming in. And while it really sets my teeth on edge that somebody can set themselves up as a mentor or a coach after 20 hours, and I've done my time. I've been a therapist for more than 30 years. And don't give me this shit. But having said that, I serve a particular community. I do a very specific thing. I'm not your average bear. Right? And I'll put a lot of people off, and that is really a good thing.
It's good.
And somebody else will you know, I can easily refer you to somebody who will tell you all about your diet and how to relate to your partner.
Yeah, yeah, because that's a different niche entirely.
That's not me.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that I feel very strongly, particularly as female business owners, the way we thrive is to lean in.
And to help
Thrive is
each
to
other and be a
support
community.
each other, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and to use our networks in a way
Yes.
that is not Knights of Knee, not Knights of Knee,
Yeah,
no knee, no knee,
the Knights of Me.
no,
Anyway, so I,
no.
yeah, when I first started in 2010, I hardly had any social skills. I'd worked for other people. I felt, God, I was so shy. I was so socially, what's the word? Just, ugh. And I started networking. And to start with, I'd hardly sleep the night before, but it was a lovely place in Bury St Edmunds I'd go. And I reckon it took me a couple of years, but I can remember one day I just walked up to someone and introduced myself, and I was just talking to people. And no one that knew me from school would ever think that that would be me, that I would be able to do that. And now I can do this stuff and I can talk in front of a video. So I realized how much networking has helped my mental health as a business person. Networking, whatever networking you do, it doesn't matter what you do with BNI, which I'm not a big fan of, or something more informal, which is what I prefer. That's just helped me so much, because it's not just about selling yourself, but building those relationships or seeing different people's points of view. That's how I've grown so much in the last, I think I've grown more in the last 14 years than I did the years before that. I don't know how many years before that was. I'm not going to work that out, 20 something.
Mm. Yeah, I feel that very much about writers as well. You know, it is a privilege, as I said, and it's really, really hard. You know, you're sort of banged up in your room, left to whatever your worst fears are. It's incredibly exposing having words out there.
Yes,
And
yes.
you know, the publishing industry is under stress, shall we say,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's in their interest to keep writers quiet about the money,
Mm,
rather the lack of money that we're paid for
yes,
writing,
yes.
and to keep us separate. It's in their interest to keep us competitive.
Mm. I think there are people that it's almost as if there's a culture of making people be competitive or actually be hostile towards each other rather than just competitive. I'm happy to compete with someone, but it doesn't mean I have anything against them. I might actually be rooting for them in a weird sort of way, but I feel like it's more community driven rather than hostility. How dare you get that?
Yeah,
Don't
I mean,
have that mentality
I
at all.
got Second Spring published, or Second Spring was published because women who I didn't know, who I asked for help, just stepped up because they liked it, and
Mm,
they didn't have to answer my, you know, my cold fish email, but they
mm,
did. And people have, you know, people with a lot of power and very little time have stepped up and supported my writing and my books, and I'm I consistently try to pay it forward. You know, you asked
yeah.
about empathy. I think it has to be really clearly targeted, like,
Hmm.
you know, which to give money to charity, there is a lot of need. You have to
Yes.
narrow it down to where you want your money to go to at
Hmm. Hmm.
time. And I particularly, because of my experience of being supported by other female writers, um, I pay it forward and support other writers where I have capacity and
Hmm. Hmm.
constantly share their stuff and have them on a podcast and talk about what they do and share my experiences if that's helpful and stuff, because it's a joint endeavor.
Yeah, yeah. But talking about competitors, I suddenly had a thought. So you and I probably have. It's weird how so many we do completely different things, but there's this weird similarity where I get adverts come up on social media saying we can just build your website or we can just do your logo, and I'm like, or oh my God, buy backlinks. Do not buy backlinks. Do not, do not, do not, do not, because Google doesn't like that, because backlinks are links to your website from other websites and it can boost your website. But if they're not relevant, Google will just go, no, you're not relevant. You're not really build a useful website like yours, which is really useful, loads of free resources, which really helps people find your website. But for people trying to sort out the good from the bad, it's difficult for them, isn't it? But I think where you and I perhaps um, blow our arch trumpets now, but where you and I excel is that we are people that care and we're humans that have some quite a great deal of experience and you know, lots of stuff behind us where we can say, look, we've done all this stuff. But there are always going to be people that go for the cheap option, and you just have to let them. And it's like what you say about the website has to be It has to be aimed at who you want to sell to, and ignore millions of other people that you don't want to sell to. And that was quite difficult. That was quite about I say about 13, 14 years ago. Thinking that way was completely the reverse of what I thought. But that's what it is. It's about niching, I think, and finding your target audience to start with. And sometimes you have to reassess that and say, well, who is it now I really want to work with?
Mm.
Sometimes that changes.
Yeah, I think that evolves along with our work too.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing that is, I think I see a lot with well-being people and therapists is that we can get stuck. This is the kind of person I am. This is my offering.
Yes.
I am a body worker.
Mm-hmm.
I work with them, or I am a psychotherapist and I do talk therapy. And even though they may have, an art therapy practice and they like a gong and they do tarot and stuff, but that's separate, and that's their secret life over there.
Yeah, no, why not offer that as well? Because that's wonderful and helpful for people.
But it's this evolution, and I think that menopause really helps with this, is to call in our pleasure into work and to integrate all these
yes things. Yeah, definitely.
As you're talking about your artwork and your website and the techery.
Oh, we like that word, techery. I'm going to use that. Copyright, techery.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We've been talking for nearly an hour and I'm aware of the time. It doesn't feel like it. But I was not gonna wrap it up yet, but I was gonna say, how does the website work for you? Do you get plenty of work from it? Is there anything that you want to change?
If I knew how I got work, my life would be a lot less complicated.
I mean, I know that you do, because I know we had to expand the bandwidth because the website was going, ugh, and I was like, oh no, we have to make sure there's got more memory. Because
can you do that with my head, please?
Can I do that in my head too? I would like, they keep this technology. I'm like, can I stick a hard drive in my head?
I think it works pretty well. I think there is, because it has to be two things. It has to be that authenticity and that kind of relatable, like, friendliness, to basically show my one-to-one clients and groups that I'm trustworthy and I'm not an idiot and I'm a safe pair of hands. But on the other hand, it also has to speak to media. It has to speak to corporates. I'm a speaker. I have ambitions to be a keynote speaker.
Oh yeah,
I have to kind of be that kind of big. That bigger kind
big I am, which is terrifying for some of us. Some people love that. My husband is really good for that. He's a very genuine person and he loves talking in front of people, but I'm like, I don't want to talk in front of people.
Right, I can do that and I really like it. So the website has to do both. It has to have heft, like heft. Because publishers need to trust that you can sell product.
Yeah, I'll make a note, heft and techery, because I need to use these words.
And that's status and that weight is really important.
Yeah.
But
also being authentic and friendly at the same time.
Human. So it has. I think that a lot of it has to balance. It has to balance both.
Something I've realised, which took me far longer to realise than I wish I'd been taught this when I was like 10 or something, is everything is so much of a balance. Like a website is so much of a balance of lots of things: the technical, the techery, the heftery, being personal and real, but it's got to work. There's so many things you've got to, and all the different people you've got to talk to. It's quite
it's complex.
I love that challenge. I love that. It's like gardening. It's like letting all the plants be happy. I often relate to silly things like that. But what are your future plans?
My future plans.
Do you have any future plans?
Well, I don't know when this is going out, but my book, The Perimenopause Journal, will be going out 10th of September is the update. And for everybody that pre-orders, you get a golden ticket to the Rage Against the Patriarchy disco.
Yeah. Oh, I love a disco.
Got a banging soundtrack for that. So you'll find that on my website, obviously.
Excellent.
But that's quite, that's pretty soon now. So I'm gearing up for a lot of PR and banging on.
Oh, lovely.
Well, I don't know.
You gotta pretend to be
A lot of adrenaline fueled. And that will tail off in the winter, and then next year, well, actually across the winter, I'm really looking forward to mentoring professionals and having professional mentoring groups. And next spring, I will be opening up the perimenopause mentoring group again.
Oh, cool.
And I just had a realization this morning. So I've just taken on a load of one-to-one clients, and I'm pretty much full. I'm like full. There's no room. I have no capacity for anything else.
That's so lovely, and oh, I'm happy for you. That's brilliant.
And if I have a doula service for my one-to-one clients, so I work with them for a year. And I was thinking, well, how am I going to write this third book 3, because there's another one. There's no time to do that now. So actually, I'm thinking, just before we met online, I thought by next summer solstice, so next June, I need to start tailing off, and I need to take 6 months of stepping back and not take on new clients and not take on new projects and prioritize writing again.
Yeah.
That's the hot news from my head.
Nice. Brilliant. And compartmentalizing time is something I've recently learned. Blocking out time. Don't know why it only occurred to me recently, but yeah. Oh, but brilliant. Right. I had random chat put to the end of this, but we already did a random chat. Then after random chat, it says,
how random would you like to be, Abbie?
How random? I can get as random as you like. I'm the most random person. What have I got here that's random? Yeah, there's a really big crystal ball that I'm probably going to drop if I pick it up.
Whoa!
I really like. I'm not into woo-woo stuff, but I just really like how the light passes through crystal balls. And I nearly just polished it right beforehand, and I thought, I hope I don't drop this in the sink because it will break the sink. I thought,
you could have told me what my plans are.
I can't. I don't know how that even works, but I just always was fascinated by glass and light and things.
So tell me about your business design. Oh,
that's a necklace I attempted to draw earlier. But yeah, drawing helps my mindfulness and stuff. But yeah. Sorry, what did you say?
Tell me about your plans.
My plans. What are my plans? Well, I've got lots of webinars planned, and I do one called SEO You Can Do. SEO, as I mentioned, is search engine optimization. Not everyone knows what it stands for, and it's the kind of the practice of making your website rank higher in Google. But the idea is more from a point of view of who are your customers and how to make your website more useful and how people can find you, and then turn those visitors into actual customers rather than driving people to a website that's crap. That's no point. So it's kind of like a how-to, which I'm doing next week. And I do that monthly, and I'm going to do some other webinars because I realise I quite like teaching, and people always say get a lot out of it. I'm always really surprised when they say that. So I'm going to be teaching probably Canva and probably Adobe Express with how to do it technically, but the kinds of design things to avoid, like what typefaces and stuff. And some WordPress stuff is coming out that I can't tell you about yet. But there's a kind of an off-the-shelf, an off-the-shelf thing with WordPress I'm gonna do. But lots of stuff.
Stay tuned.
Sorry?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. I thought it said something about June. Sorry, my earring went with there. It'll be before June. It probably won't be now. I have these plans. But I'm doing some lovely websites at the moment, and I'm just loving my work. I'm back into work and I'm loving it again. Yeah. All right. So I reckon, anything else you want to mention other than anything random?
Well, just that it's really, really settling to know that my website is cared for, because it takes that sort of layer of anxiety off my shoulders.
That's the point.
Me to get on with doing what I do well. So thank you so much for all
that's my absolute pleasure, is to take that off people, and I want to do this because I love that. And so you can get on with doing what you want to do and all the lovely things that you do.